Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Ben Monroe. Today, we commemorate the anniversary of the Battle of Britain. The Luftwaffe began its aerial assault in July 1940. With nearly twice the aircraft and aircrew as the Royal Australian Air Force, Reichsmarschall Hermann Goering believed he could wipe the RAF from the skies in 4 weeks, helping to pave the way for the planned German invasion of England. British and German aircraft clashed in the skies above England, and in August, German bombers began striking cities and civilian targets, marking the beginning of the Blitz. The turning point in the Battle of Britain came on the 15th of September 1940. That morning, British coastal raiders picked up dense formations of German bombers and fighter escorts racing across the English Channel. Fighter Command scrambled 24 fighter squadrons to intercept them, and hundreds of aircraft locked in fierce aerial combat in the skies over Britain. Unable to defeat the RAF and facing the mounting losses that could not be replaced, the German invasion was cancelled and the Battle of Britain was won. That day was chosen to remember the significance of the Battle of Britain. While the majority of those who participated were Britons, Australians were involved, flying operations with Fighter Command, Bomber Command, and Coastal Command. Flight Lieutenant Pat Hughes of Cooma, New South Wales, with over 14 kills to his tally and among the top 10 leading aces of the time, flew in Fighter Command during the battle. 35 Australians flew combat operations with Fighter Command during the Battle of Britain, 10 of whom were killed in the action. They were among the airmen immortalised by British Prime Minister Winston Churchill in his powerful tribute to the men of Fighter Command. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Shortly, we will tell the story of Sergeant Russell Seymour Trigwell, who was among the brave Australian airmen serving with the RAF who defended Britain during the Second World War. We warmly welcome the family of Sergeant Trigwell, who are in attendance. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Mr. Dean Thomas, Chair of the RSL and Services Clubs Association, Brigadier Philip Winter, Chief Executive Officer, RSL Australia, Miss Margot Smith, Chief Executive Officer of the RSL and Services Clubs Association, and the accompanying RSL and Services Clubs delegation, who are in attendance in conjunction with their annual conference taking place here in Canberra. Mr. Peter Baldwin, President of the Returned and Services League of Australia, ACT branch, and Group Captain Ernie Walsh, President of the Air Force Association, ACT Division. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and RSL and Services Clubs Association. We warmly welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of St Mary's Anglican Girls' School from Karrinyup, Western Australia. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth
if you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops at Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Russell Seymour Trigwell. Russell Trigwell was born on the 2nd of July 1920 in Bunbury, Western Australia. He was one of 4 children born to Sydney Seymour Trigwell, a farmer, and his wife, Ethel May. Russell grew up in the town of Donnybrook, where he attended the local state school. He later attended Perth Technical College. After his schooling, Russell began working for the state government's lands department as a clerk before working as a labourer. Russell Trigwell enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 21st of June 1941. He began a long period of training at several schools across Australia, where he learnt about wireless operations as well as bombing and air gunnery. In April 1942, he qualified as an air gunner before travelling to Sydney in May. From there, he embarked on the 2nd of July via the United States to England, arriving on the 18th of August. After a few days at a personnel reception centre in the seaside town of Bournemouth, he was allocated to an advanced flying unit for more training. In October, he was posted to No. 27 Operational Training Unit at RAF Lickfield, where night bomber crews trained on the Vickers Wellington medium bomber. In February 1943, Trigwell began training at No. 1656 Heavy Conversion Unit, where crews learned to operate the new heavy bombers, such as the Halifax and Lancaster. In March, he was allocated to his first operational unit, No. 156 Squadron of the Royal Air Force. Based out of RAF Warboy in Cambridgeshire, the squadron was equipped with Lancasters and, as a member of No. 8 Group, was one of the original Pathfinder units, responsible for leading bomber forces to their targets. Within days of joining his new unit, Trigwell was drawn into 2 major raids. The first was an attack on Berlin at the end of March, and the second was an attack on the German submarine base at Saint-Nazaire in France on the 2nd of April. The next day, Trigwell and his crew were involved in another raid on the city of Essen in Germany. This raid was part of a larger bombing offensive against Germany, which targeted cities and towns in the Ruhr Valley, the country's industrial heartland. Essen, in particular, was home to much of Germany's industrial production, including the Krupp's factory, which produced steel, artillery, and armaments. Alongside 10 other aircraft from No. 156 Squadron, Trigwell and his comrades took off from RAF Warboy to attack the targets. The attack was largely successful, but Trigwell and the crew of Lancaster W4894 failed to return. They were officially listed as missing in action. Nothing was heard from Trigwell or his comrades until the 8th of November, when the remains of one of the crew washed ashore at Oosterland in Holland. Following this grim discovery, the entire crew was presumed to have lost their lives during the attack on the Ruhr Valley on the 3rd of April 1943. Their exact fate remained unclear, though authorities believed that they were most likely shot down by flak or a German night fighter and crashed into the ocean. With no known grave but the sea, today Russell Trigwell is commemorated on the Air Force's memorial in Runnymede, England. He was just 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Russell Seymour Trigwell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a pleasant evening. Thank you.